Just so you know, Dennis, we were waiting till we saw you say something before we went live. So we've been waiting here for the past 4 minutes. Um, Definitely not doing a mic check, and definitely not doing an audio check, and definitely not pouring ourselves alcohol. We were waiting for you, Dennis. 100%. So real quick, awkward moment here. Apparently, we all decided to wear the same shirt. Um, Completely, just like unsolicited. Uh, I think I have to agree. I think we talked about this off stream a little bit, but uh, I think the tri blend shirt is definitely a nicer shirt than the other ones. I think you guys all got different styles, right? Or did you guys just get the tri blend?
I got the tri blend.
Yeah, I got just the tri blend.
Yeah, I got.
It's a nice shirt.
Yeah, the tri blend's really nice. I got a heavyweight one, which is just like your standard like heavyweight shirt. It's fine. I think it was like $20 or something, but this was like a couple bucks more. It feels a lot nicer. Polka Dot Taylor's asking what the pour is. What was that? Was that Scotch you poured?
I got Cardew Gold Reserve. It's like a cheaper bottle, but I'm trying to clear out my stash a little bit.
Mark, what do you got going on over there?
I got a Boulevardier that I made up. I've been really in a mixed drink kind of kick lately, so Josh got me on these, and they're amazingly solid, and I love them. So
I have been on a freaking huge cocktail kick, but I figured I was going to need more than one drink to get through this, and like I don't think that going downstairs and mix a cocktail halfway through is going to be a good play. So I'm just going straight bourbon. I did, and Polka Dot, of course, is asking, but I did pick up a handle, a 1.75 liter of Buffalo Trace store pick. It was really reasonable. It was $44, and I was just like, I don't think this is priced right, but so I grabbed a handle of that. So that's what I got here, and then as my backup, I do have a nice little E.H. Taylor small batch. So I'll be good to make it through this. Ooh, yeah, and it looks like Polka Dot likes your choice of cocktail there, Pac. So
I'm glad it's Polka Dot approved. That's PDT is a big deal.
Yeah, he likes to make fun of us for drinking scotch and drinking mixed drinks, but then he's like, "Oh, but I do like these mixed drinks," and I think he's not really much of a rye guy actually. He's more just straight bourbon. I think rye mixes a little bit better than bourbon, but
yeah, I would agree. I did the Boulevardier with some Four Roses small batch, and I wish I had a rye to cut it just a little bit more. I think it's came off a little sweet. The little rye gives a little bit more punch that's nicer.
So before we start getting into some of these stakes races, did want to talk a little bit because I know you guys had kind of mentioned this. You guys think that some of these races, you said that some of the allowance races are looking better than the stakes races here, huh?
Yeah. It says equally about the allowance races as it does the stakes races.
Yeah, I think if you look at some of the stakes races on the card, I mean, first thing, there's stakes races carded really in weird places. Like the Woody Stevens is the second race. I don't understand why they did that. There's also some like, oh, hey, we're going to have a G1 and then we're going to have two allowance races and then another G1. There's this sort of, normally as a card builds, you expect it to be sort of the races get better as the card goes along. I also think this card, obviously, it's not normally Belmont weekend, but also the Met Mile is not on the Belmont card. And that's a really big downside. I mean, it always used to be great because you get the Met Mile and then you get the Belmont a few races later, and it just, the anticipation, you get to see, normally world-class older and a little shorter, and then you're getting to see the, 3-year-olds trying to figure out how to run 12 furlongs. So some of the luster of the card just was taken away from me. There's some good racing, competitive races, but there's no race that you go, wow, that's a really amazing race.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of good horses that are racing tomorrow. They're just maybe is like 2 horses in a 6-horse field over and over again. It kind of has a little bit of the Santa Anita issue going on. So, yeah, we'll talk about it as we go through. But you have some highly thought of allowance horses. Like race 3, you have Mrs. Danvers and Indian Pride, like both pretty highly thought of horses in a 6-7 horse field with a couple of hopeless ones. And it's just like it feels like the theme of the day is there's 2, maybe 3 really nice horses, but the field sizes are just not what you'd hope to see for Belmont Day. And I think everyone's kind of missing the Met Mile.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this earlier. We kind of forgot that the Met Mile got pushed back to July 4. And I was definitely thinking because what was it, 2 weeks ago that we saw McKinsey run? And I was just like, why the heck is McKinsey running in just some like random race? Isn't the Met Mile coming up? And then, yeah, it makes sense now that the Met Mile is pushed back 2 weeks. I guess 2 weeks.
I was just saying, and I'm not to take a little bit of a tangent here, but I don't know if anybody was watching Lady Apple yesterday. Absolutely run terrible. So there's definitely been some interesting things with these horses that are coming off longer layoffs. Obviously, Apple ran at Oaklawn, but you've seen some interesting choices of race spots with the calendar being shaken. There's normally that sort of progression of these horses running this race and this race and this race, and you're seeing horses taking all sorts of crazy audibles. I don't know if that's partly why this field is as weak as well. Obviously, Mile not being here definitely did hurt, but I wonder if it's just trainers trying to figure out the sequence, and if they're all trying to back half the year and skip the front. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's just a weird year, right, for everything. So it's kind of hard to figure out what some of these horses are gonna do. I know I saw on Twitter one of the, or maybe it was you, Mark, that told me. Maybe it wasn't Twitter about Bafford's horse, Cezanne or whatever, is like now like that's like the hype horse. Like they think that that's going to be Bafford's Derby horse now. Like fuck Authentic, fuck the 2 injured horses. We're going to go with this horse that just broke its maiden last month.
It wasn't from me, but I do remember seeing we were at someplace that we were chatting. We were having somebody else had thrown up that Cezanne is the new Baffert hype horse, and I mean I don't know. It's sure whatever. He'll burn the horse out, and there are 2 races anyways. He won't even make the classic. But it's a weird year, very weird year.
Why don't we talk about some of these earlier races? And just kind of get through these real quick. I mean, we'll start with the Woody Stevens. It's a 5-horse field. I think this is kind of exactly what you were talking about, Caleb, with these small fields. I mean, this race isn't really in any of the big sequences. I mean, unless it's part of the 2-day pick 5. I don't even know what races are part of that. But it's a grade 1 that's really not connecting anything. So, but one reason why I did want to bring it up is I think there might actually be value in this race if we're to believe the morning lines here in this race. I mean, I really like No Parole here. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, No Parole is fast, and I think that this distance is gonna really hit the. Hit No Parole right in the middle of the eyes. I mean, I know they tried the Rebel and didn't really do much, but I mean, I think that this horse is just fast, and I think that this 7 furlong race, I think that this horse is going to get out to the front, and I don't know if anyone's going to catch him.
Yeah, I actually came at this race completely the opposite way as you, Josh. I like No Parole, and I think he can. Echo Town obviously has shown that he's a real monster talent if he brings his A game. But looking at this in paper, there is a ton of speed here. No Parole can fly. Maru is pretty fast. Echo Town, I think, is just as fast as No Parole. I sort of have a feeling this could get melty, and if it melts, there's only one closer in the field. It's shoplifted. He's going to get a perfect trip, and he's going to be every bit of that 8-1 price. I would imagine you'll probably get a little better than that. Don't know if he's good enough, and it's really going to have to melt, but on paper, it looks like it just might.
Yeah, this is one of those races that it reminds me of What was the race last weekend we just saw with Ollie's Candy and the fillies and mares? I can't remember. Anyway, it was like a 6 or 7 horse field, but it was, you could make a case for almost every horse. And I think this is one of those races where there's only 5 horses in here, and I could see any of them winning. It's funny that there's only 5 horses in here, and we end up on 3 different horses on our top picks. I feel like these sprints every year, the Woody Stevens looks like it's going to melt. And some years it kind of does, but a lot of these grade 1 sprints often end up looking like they're going to melt, and then a horse that was just off or the speed holds anyway. And I kind of get the feeling this is going to be one of those races. I kind of see it a little more like Josh. There's a lot of potential speed on the paper, but I think No Parole is the only need the lead type, especially with that rail draw. I don't know that he's good enough. He beat up on Louisiana breds for a while, and then a mile and a mile and a 16th was too far. He comes back and wins an allowance race. So, like, I don't hate him. Like, I think he could win. I ended up on both Maru and Mischievous Alex, actually, as my top 2 picks. But I think if you go back and watch that optional claimer $100,000 race that Maru and Echo Town and them came out of, Maru did not have the best trip, had to kind of take back, loop out wide, got a little bit tight late. And it just seems like a horse that wants to go an extra furlong. We talk about 7 furlongs being kind of a funny trip. So I'm kind of leaning towards the horse that I know can handle the trip, which is Mischievous Alex, who's 2 for 2 at the distance and actually cutting back from a 1-turn mile. And then Maru, who just seemed to really be asking for a little more ground. So that's kind of the direction I landed, but I wouldn't blame anyone for using all here, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say Chase is saving our butts, even though he's not on stream. The Ogden Phipps was the race from last week.
So that's why we need you, Chase. Ogden Phipps, yes. I was going to say the Acorn, but I knew that was this race coming up.
Someone, Jared in the chat pointed out that No Parole's last work was in 57-3. So I'm telling you, man, the horse is fast. You know what? Caleb, I kind of agree with you. How often we look at these races and see all these, fast horses, and you're like, oh, this is going to melt, or hey, like these 2 or 3 horses are going to duel. And then only one horse gets a lone lead and ends up wiring, and we just sit there like, what the fuck just happened? That's kind of what I'm hoping happens here. No Parole's got Louis Saez aboard. I mean, I think that's like the perfect rider for this. I mean, I guess if Mooch was aboard, maybe I use 2 hands instead of just like 1.5. But I mean, Louis Saez is like a I don't know, like a fancy version, I guess, of Mooch. So yeah, I think that that there is a little bit of value here in this race with No Parole. I mean, especially if these other horses with, I guess, I mean, they're definitely classier horses. So I could definitely see No Parole getting overlooked here. But I mean, the horse is just fast. I'm gonna be betting that speed like it's going out of style, and probably watch No Parole finish a tired third, per usual. But yeah, and it looks like Tom Amos said that this was No Parole's target all along. So
that's a good point. I always like a horse that points to a race instead of one that kind of gets thrown in. Like, I believe Amos that this was probably the target for No Parole the whole time. When I look at a horse like Shoplifted, I kind of wonder, like, this is a horse that probably had Derby dreams and is now realizing might not be in the cards and maybe making some late game changes. Now, granted, he may have been pointing to this race for 2 months, but it just seems like more of an audible for a horse like that.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. This is probably an audible, but we've been seeing this a lot in recent years where a lot of Derby hopefuls, they have Derby dreams, can't quite make it. Where's the audible to? And spots like this are where those horses audible to it. And there are so many horses that, are very precocious, show a lot of speed as a 2-year-old or earlier in the 3-year-old season. They try to stretch out, can't do it. And then they point for things like this. I think our everyone's favorite horse, Run Happy, is the quintessential example of that. So we see this a lot, and I don't think this is a bad thing to see. Maybe he can't get the distance. his pedigree kind of just hits him right between the eyes, and I think it sets right up for him. So we'll see.
Is it bad that I was like, whose favorite horse is Promises Fulfilled? Because that was the horse that popped in my head, right? Because this was Promises Fulfilled, like sprinting debut, right? Or I mean, sprinting graded stakes sprinting debut, right? 2 years ago.
Might have been. I can't remember.
Oh, I can't Google because I'm showing the PPs, but I'm guessing. I thought it was, but
You're probably right.
yeah. So why don't we move on then? That we've probably spent more time on 5 horses than no, we've definitely spent more time on 5 horse fields at Santa Anita. So that was actually efficient for us. And Dennis agrees with me with no parole. So yeah, we're fucked on that one.
It wasn't Promise to Fail anyway. In 2018, Still Having Fun. 2017, American Anthem. 2016.
Then I don't remember what he won. He won some.
Yeah, it was some point. He cut back to 1 turn, had a big race. I forget which one.
Woody Stevens, it looks like.
Isn't that what this was? Oh, it says this was the Woody Stevens.
He didn't win it then. Maybe he ran second.
No, he ran third.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Now we're starting to get into the spending too much time. But why don't we just take a look at the Pennine Ridge real quick here? This is also not part of the late pick 5, but it's a grade 2. Figure we should talk about it. It's a 3-year-old, 1 mile on the turf. Looking at it initially, this is kind of a funny race, pace wise. I saw a bit of speed here, but really there's only one need the lead type here, and it seems to be kind of Proven Strategies, who's the typical E8 horse that's going to be trying a mile on the turf, has wired at longer distances as well. So be interesting to see. I mean, this horse took a really long time to break its maiden, and is going to be like second or third choice here. It looks like 3-1 on the morning line. I am usually a sucker for speed on the turf, but it does look like there's a fair bit signed up here. So I'll probably end up looking a little bit elsewhere. How do you see this one, Mark?
I actually ended up on Proven Strategies on top. He was my only A. I think you're getting Jose Ortiz, who is about as good as walking the dog as anybody in the game today, especially in a turf race. And I agree with you that there is some other speed, but who really shows speed in here unless Kendrick and Vanzi goes full send, and that's a horse we don't even know if we'll take to the turf. So I liked Proven Strategies. I liked that horse more than than anybody else in here. But it's one of those races I'm okay having a little bit of a binary opinion and getting kind of cute with, because otherwise I think you got to get pretty deep here.
Yeah, that's an interesting position. Usually I feel like I'm the one that's trying to get a little bit too cute around a bit of a 3rd, 4th pick horse. But that's not me this time. I kind of think if either Proven Strategies, the 3 or the 5 Vanzi would scratch, the other one becomes super interesting. But I think that Kendrick has one way to go on this horse, and it's forward. And I don't know that he's good enough to win, but I think he's good enough to give Proven Strategies enough to where it sets up for, in my opinion, the kind of unquestionably best horse in the race, Decorated Invader. I just think this horse is significantly faster and better than the rest of this field. On thoroughgraphs, a lot of these horses have to take pretty decent steps forward to even be in the same ballpark. The one that I would maybe make a case for is kind of a counterpart to Proven Strategies, which is Vanzi. Maybe the horse's by far 2 best races came over the synthetic, which plays a little similar to turf than it does the dirt. So pedigree suggests that turf should be fine. It can handle a mile and a 16th, which is kind of the same distance, a little bit longer than today, actually. So I guess that might be the one you could take and make an argument for me, but I'll probably be single-A to Decorated Invader. I think that horse just kind of lays over this field.
So what was your take on Decorated Invader with Rosario ending up there and Arad ends up on Famished? I mean, I realize, that Rosario was up for the last win, or at Gulfstream with Undecorated Invader. I don't know if that was during the period where Arad was out, but Rosario stays there, and I don't know if he had choice or if Arad wanted off the horse and moved outside. Do you make anything of that?
I don't like. I watch the jocks and I follow the jocks sometimes. I think Rosario. I would assume Rosario had choice. I can't imagine Irad gives up that mount for a horse he's ridden once to a 5th place finish. So I'm assuming Rosario had choice during when he got the mount when Irad wasn't riding. And Rosario rides pretty often for Clement anyway. So I'm assuming he had choice, but horses of this caliber, I'm not really going to get too caught up with the follow the jock game. I think Rosario kind of fits this horse, and I just think it's the best horse in the race. I don't know what the price is. It can't be pretty. I'm guessing like 6 to 5.
Yeah, 6 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a pretty clear favorite. I think second choice is Proven Strategies at 3 to 1. Yeah, I mean, the Vanzi would probably be a horse I would look at a little bit, but I kind of came to the same conclusion you did. I think the 1 does lay over this field quite a bit. It does have Rosario aboard, and Rosario is going to have pace to run into, I think, here. I mean, Proven Strategies has to go, and Vanzi has to go. Now, have we seen dumber things happen where, Vanzi or Proven Strategies somehow get loose and the other horse either misses the break or something like that? Yeah, I could see that happening. Interestingly, Mr. Kringle wasn't in the lead in his last time out, but did keep up with a fairly hot pace up front, and did pass a couple of horses, but was also the favorite there and missed. And the speed figure doesn't really show much. That would be more of a like long shot pace type play. But the problem is that there's already other pace in here. So I kind of have to agree with you. I think I'm going to go with the 1 here, Decorated Invader. I guess if you're looking purely at a pace standpoint, you could probably make a case for the 7, but I think the 7 also hasn't been fast enough. The interesting horse in here could be the 6. The 6 horse, Maroon Maniac. Now, I haven't looked at any TGs or haven't looked at any other figures, but the figures for his last dirt race, which was on the turf, was supposed to be on the turf, got washed off, is right up there with the same figures for the 1. So, I mean, maybe Jonathan Thomas has got something here. I don't really know. This would be kind of a watch and see what the price looks like. But as a violence horse who, I think they've been pretty good on the turf. Not outstanding by any means, but I don't think it's a negative. We're not talking Bernardini or Union Rags here. Yeah, I think that I would probably go with something like most of my playthrough the 1. And then I think you have to use both Proven Strategies and Vanzi defensively, kind of as either Bs or Cs, on the off chance that one of them gets loose and the other one just doesn't fire. And then the only other horse I think the only 2 horses that I might want to look at would be the 6 and the 7. Be price dependent, but I think you could probably get by with just the 1 and the 2 speed horses.
Yeah, I'll probably get by with just the 1, to be honest. I'm pretty confident in Decorated Invader against this bunch. I don't know if you were asking, but I'm going to answer it anyway. The Briz number looks good on the 6. The TGs on Thorographs, the 6 is way too slow. Lightly raced could jump way up for sure, but would need to even hit the board.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot, I think, for this horse. Like, I don't like going from a maiden 20 or maiden special weight 20 and jumping straight into a G2 field. But I mean,
looks like Bobby mentioned it might be the same connections as Catholic Boy, so maybe Mark wants to bet him now.
Let's not talk about that horse, okay? Yeah, the only horse in here that we haven't mentioned yet that I'm going to be using is Venezuelan Hug. the 2. That's a horse that I realized Rad got off after the last. It was 1-2 straight. Sayers was on for the maiden break, so Sayers getting back aboard doesn't really scare me. The horse is going to, probably need some, pace to fire into. I've proven strategies in Vanzi hook up on the front end. So this is a horse that makes a lot of sense to pick up the pieces. Is Decorated Invader better? Yeah, probably on paper, but Rosario's got a way of fighting traffic troubles at times. And I think you're going to get paid much better on a Venezuelan Hug, who on Bears figs at least is only 3 points slower than Decorated Invader's last, and has every right again to move forward. So that was the other horse that I was a little interested in here. So I'm proving strategies over Decorated Invader and Venezuelan Hug.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at the chat here real quick. Our boy Tommy Mack over here saying fake news, Mark, that Jose Ortiz walks the dog like he owns a cat. So he is not a fan of your Jose Ortiz. Know what that
means, Tommy. I mean,
nobody does. It's provocative.
It gets the people going. And then he also says that if you like a fast dirt horse here, why don't you like a fast turf horse in the Jaipur? So he might be asking a question that you'll have to answer later. Also sounds, let's see. Dennis is also cursing me because apparently he also likes the 6. So that's not good. And then Bobby thinks that same connection as Catholic Boy, maybe trying to get the dirt turf double. So interesting.
I also like your 2, by the way, Mark. Venezuelan Hug, probably my second, debatably third pick. So I think that horse has a shot in here and definitely hit the board.
All right, we're not playing this pick 6, so we're gonna go straight to the late pick 5 here. Starts at race 6. The Wonder Again, grade 3.
It's actually middle pick 5.
Technically, that's the middle pick 5.
The middle pick 5, really?
I think that's why they carded these races the way they did. Is it's kind of like any pick 5 you play, you get like 2 graded stakes races in it. This middle one might get a little bit better, but in roughly you get 2 to 3 stakes races per pick 5.
That's gross. I mean, yeah. I guess for you guys who like playing pick 5s, it makes sense. But I think this is the pick 5 that ends at the Belmont. So this is probably the pick 5 most people are playing, right?
Yeah. The pick 5 that I'll play until I get bounced in the second leg, and then play the late pick 5 anyway.
This is also the mandatory payout pick 5. So I'm assuming there's a mandatory pool here or a guaranteed pool of some form.
That's weird. Why would it be a mandatory? Did anything carry?
They're calling it a mandatory payout pick 5, the 6th through the 10th. So I'm assuming.
So it just doesn't carry, like it's going to pay 4 to 5.
Okay, I'll pay 4 out of 5, I guess. Okay. All right, Naira.
Dude, there are so many gimmick wagers in here. There's a 2-day pick 5 that goes into the that ends at the Belmont. So I think it's 8th, 9th, 10th on this card. There's also a pick 3 that's a 2-day pick 3. There's a 2-day double. There's all sorts of gimmicks.
Really?
Oh yeah, they do this every year in Belmont, but the thing is this card doesn't have the hype. So it's one of those things. There may be some pools where you can find some value where, there's just not a lot of people. I don't think anybody's really excited about the Friday Belmont card, not to the degree that they normally would be if there was Belmont Saturday the next day. So there may be some interesting value playing that to this 2-day stuff.
Yeah.
I heard the pick 5 is a $1 minimum for the 2-day wager, so something to keep in mind. It's probably going to pay more akin to Astronic or something, just given the higher minimums.
Yeah, I can pull that up over here in this end when I get this. But
if you have Friday's card open,
yeah, we have it looks like we have another 5-horse field here, so we're approaching Santa Anita territory here. But mile on the turf for 3-year-olds. I already see a bunch of Sweet Melania chatter going on in chat over here. So Caleb, how did you see this one?
So I've only taken a first pass at this race because it didn't look very interesting to me. I tried to get creative, but I rather unimaginatively ended up on what I'm sure are the 2 favorites, Sweet Melania and Selflessly. I give the nod to Sweet Melania here. I'm hoping the Chad takes more money, but I don't know what the prices will be. Mostly just from a pace perspective, there's no real speed in this race. It's only a 5-horse race, and sometimes you get some goofy pace setups in these small fields. But the 2-horse Sweet Melania, while not really a true speed horse, definitely has speed. And the only horse I could possibly see trying to go would be the 4, Antoinette. And that horse hasn't really made the lead and since her maiden race last year. So I think Sweet Melania, whether she gets the lead or just sits just off, is going to be awful tough to run down if she's fit off the long layoff, which is really the biggest question I think the main contenders in this race have to answer, is who's going to be able to fire from not running since November of her 2-year-old season. But yeah, I think it's Sweet Melania is probably my top pick. I'll use Selflessly pretty prominently as well, just because it's Chad in New York on turf.
Selflessly is actually the third choice here.
Really? Who's the second pick?
Highland Glory is second.
Huh.
People are just banging that Barkley tag drum. It's fucking Barkley. Naira presents Barkley Tag Day, apparently.
That's really interesting. I looked at that horse. That horse is a giant standout on optics, but I sort of like discount that a little bit because this horse does have 2 starts as a 3-year-old, where I would expect it to be a little bit faster versus Sweet Melania and Selflessly, who haven't raced since 2. I didn't really like Highland Glory. Like, I guess that last race was the reason I said I kind of haven't fully capped this race is I have it marked down to watch a replay of that last race. It kind of looks like the horse had some traffic issues and had to check and had some problems. It's a pretty heavy favorite. So I'll go back and watch it, and if my opinion changes, I'll throw it in chat. But at first glance, I was much more interested in the Sweet Melania and Selflessly.
Yeah, that last race that Highland Glory was in, I think that was Micheline that won that, and wasn't that like some Chad Brown first time in U.S. horse or something like that? Or am I thinking of a different one? Sounds French. Maybe I just think it sounds French, and so it's got to be some freaking French Chad Brown horse. I'll pull it up over here in Equibase. Yeah,
on Woody Stevens.
I tend to agree. I really like Sweet Melania here, but lately it's been kind of hard. And I'm not gonna say kind. It's been very hard to trust Todd Pletcher in these stakes races off a layoff. I think we talked about this. Was it last week or the week before? There was another like short price Todd Pletcher horse, and Caleb, I think you were just like, defaming that horse's character, mainly because of Todd Pletcher and his not being great off those long layoffs. So at least lately, I'm sure historically, historically he hits at 30%. It looks like 90 days off, but it seems like on some of these shorter price horses, he just hasn't really been delivering. But
my hatred, to clarify, for Pletcher horses is Pletcher clash droppers on turf. That's my hate, my defame your character kind of horse. Layoffs with Pletcher are actually pretty solid.
I think it was just maybe I combined the two, because I know you defamed Pletcher, and then we were also talking about these like horses off long layoffs and graded stakes races. But I mean that's my only concern here. But I mean, the thing that sucks is like didn't really exactly draw the best of fields to kind of make things difficult on this horse. I mean, if you look at every figure that Brisnet has, this horse absolutely just towers over the field. So for me, I find it kind of hard to get off this horse. I guess you could kind of like you said, maybe look at Selflessly or Highland Glory, but I mean, it's a 5-horse field. You can't be taking 2 or 3 horses here. I don't think. I think you take one. You take the one short price, or you try and get around it. But I think Sweet Melania is that good, so I'm probably just gonna single and move on here.
Yeah, I think I took the opposite approach to what Josh was talking about, and I would be buying this race to some degree. Sweet Melania is the logical choice, but if you look back at her last in the Breeders' Cup, she had the best trip of, the two coming out of that race. Much better trip than Selflessly, who got floated 3 wide around the first and 4 wide around the second corners, and really lost all chance and ran extremely well considering. So, I use both those two as A's. Both have every right to move forward the first start in their 3-year-old campaigns. But I don't think there's anybody in here who is sort of like, oh, that horse has no chance. Speak to Me of Summer. I'd be much more interested if Alvarado stayed up and didn't get taken off for some reason. But that horse is super interesting. Again, every right off the long layoff to move forward. And I can't really get off anyone here. I think this field for a 5-horse field is extremely solid and extremely competitive. So I would be, using Sweet Melania. You can make an argument Sweet Melania is a single A, but I think I'd play it as Sweet Melania and Selflessly as A's, and the rest of the field is B's. And it's one of those situations, maybe, you hope a price comes in. You hope somebody like, Speak to Me of Summer really fires, or somebody sort of steps up. I think the morning line's completely wrong. I think there's no way Highland Glory ends up being the second choice in here. I think she's definitely third choice, but and I think Selflessly will be shorter than the morning line. But again, I think this is a race where you can use pretty much every contender, and if you have a strong opinion, hey, leverage it up and be smart with it. But I just didn't have any sort of opinion that I felt like was, okay, this is the horse.
I did, just as an FYI, look up Micheline, and this horse is Kentucky bred, so this is absolutely not the horse I was thinking of. Ran in the Florida Oaks and then came back and won that black type. It's a Stidham, a Godolphin owned Michael Stidham horse. So my bad, I got my horses mixed up. Yeah, I mean, how much can we talk about a 5-horse field, right? I think that this is a single and move on. Evil Bob Dole has yelled at me plenty, saying that I try to frequently get around every single favorite, and every once in a while, you just gotta eat one. I think this might be the point where I just gotta sit here and eat one. Tom says that this is the Rosario race.
I could see it. I agree with Mark, is that nobody would totally surprise me. But at the same time, I think Sweet Melania and Selflessly win this race 80% of the time, and that's probably enough for me to not use the other 3. If I can use 40% of the horses and get 80% of the outcomes, I'm pretty happy with that.
But those other 3 outcomes substantially pay more than your offset. So yeah, you're giving away. You're probably getting a 5x return if you get away from one of those 2. And honestly, Sweet Melania is going to be way overbet on the hype and the name and everything else. So that horse is seems to be everybody's kind of knows the name. So that horse is going to be massively overbet.
Yeah, it really depends. I haven't looked at the sequence as a whole. Like, if the sequence looks chalky, I might buy the race if I can go skinny elsewhere. But if I find prices that I actually like elsewhere, I'll probably kind of be a little more leveraged to Sweet Melania and Selflessly.
I guess part of that was my approach to the sequence as well. If I'm playing this pick 5, which is I normally cap with the pick 5 in mind, I felt this was a race I could spread. There were other places in this card that I felt like could get really cute. So yeah, I was more comfortable being a little wider here.
All right, why don't we move on to this this allowance race here, race 7. Have you guys taken a look at this one yet?
I have not.
Mark is shaking his head yes. Mark is like, I want to play this pick 5.
I only spent 3 hours today at work capping this. So
all right, Mark, why don't you lead off here?
Yeah, this is another race where I'm probably going to be a little spready. There's some interesting sort of price horses in here, and I want to do a little fishing. One of them, and this is a little bit of optics fishing as well. So one of them is the 6-horse Double Jewel with Gutierrez up. I realize he's 5% on the meat, but this horse really fits on figs. And I think the trip Rosario did basically everything he could do to run this horse up against a wall of horses in his last out, where you would expect an improvement angle. You're getting a jock change here. Rosario went elsewhere, and I think the horse is super interesting at 8-1. Another horse in here that was super interesting, and I guess I tended to go towards some of these more lightly raced horses where I feel like there's more upside. There's a bunch of 1 for 20 kind of types in here that I just don't want any part of. Was the 8 My Sassy Sarah, who obviously tossed the last as it was on the dirt. She ran respectably in the Miss Grillo. And she had a terrible trip. Lascano had her 3 or 4 wide every corner. She did, and to run as well as she did with the trip she had was very respectable. Again, Nevin isn't great off the long layoff, but it's a super interesting type in here that probably gets, 5-2 on the morning line. Maybe I don't know if that's the favorite or not favorite or second choice, but I think you get quite a bit more than that, quite honestly. And the other horse, albeit this distance is terrible from the outside. So sort of, you want to be, because I think this is what, 6.5, it is 6. At 6 on the turf at Belmont, the inside post, the inside 3 posts win like half the races. It's very, very inside biased. So the outside isn't as good, but I thought the 12 Spitestown Gal made a lot of sense. George Weaver is massive when he throws a rad up. A rad broke the maiden on this horse on a race that was taken off the dirt, or taken off the turf, I should say, put on the dirt. And a rad had choice on a couple in here and ends up here for Weaver. Again, Weaver isn't great off the long layoff. Maybe this is just a prep for something else at Saratoga, maybe, or late in the Belmont meet. But 8-1, I thought that was just a super, super interesting horse. I'm poking here, looking for the more lightly raced horses with more upside. Again, like I said, there's a lot of 1 for 10, 1 for 12 types in here that I just want no part of. But what were you guys thinking?
I actually, I pretty much came up almost exactly like you did here, Mark. I think my top choice here will probably end up being the 4, Stronger Than You Know. Speed, inside speed on these short turf sprints, especially at Belmont. Like you said, the inside tends to be where you want to be. Hopefully, we get an extra scratch here, and we get a moved in just even 1 or 2 positions. But yeah, I think that this horse fits on the pace figures. This horse fits pretty well on the speed figures, on the Briz side at least. Is probably Caleb's least favorite angle, which is a maiden facing winners. But he does have a little bit of, or she, excuse me, has a little bit of experience against in stakes company from last year. But yeah, I think that the 4 fits here really well. I also really love the 6. The 6 has got the kind of dirty form that you just absolutely love, where they're going back to their best distance, their best surface, their best track. It ran 3 unspectacular races at Saratoga at longer distances, and 1 that got washed off the turf. But if you look at that maiden score, that race wins here. So absolutely sign me up for 8-1. Ray Lou's a competent jock. He's not. He's probably middle of the pack here, but I would expect that he gets that horse just off the lead and makes his move, and I think that this horse is going to be right there. And then obviously the other horse that we already talked about was the 12, Spitestown Gal. And this is more of, hey, we have a rat aboard. The work pattern looks pretty strong, and this horse was bred to sprint on the turf. So, yeah, I think, like you kind of said, there's a lot of horses in here that are 1 for 20, 1 for 15. Like, one horse that did stick out to me a little bit was the 5, but I'll take my chances with the lighter race horses here. With the 4, the 6, and the 12.
So, Josh, you're 4 horse in here. Obviously, Maiden Breaker last out took 4 times to break its maiden, and a rad gets off this horse. Not to chase the jockeys. Obviously, the horse is more important. Sayers obviously is very good on the front end, so I understand. Getting Sayers versus a rad isn't necessarily a downgrade, but don't you have to kind of scratch your head at the 4-1 morning line saying this horse is kind of second here on the board, and there's a bunch of factors that you kind of go, yeah. Like, I personally, to bet that horse, I would need a lot more than 4-1.
I mean, we'll see with how we'll see if we get any scratches and things like that. But I think out of all the horses in here, I think that the 4 is probably the most likely winner. Should probably be the favorite. But we'll see. I mean, my Sassy Sarah is the morning line favorite. But if we're gonna be honest, if you look at my Sassy Sarah's kind of line, and then you compare it to the 6, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, right? I mean, at least on Briz, those figures look. If you look at that 6 furlong turf race, I mean, at Belmont, they look pretty darn close to the same. And once you get Rosario jumping off the 8, going elsewhere, and you get Manny Franco, who is a huge downgrade, versus going from Rad Ortiz to Luis Saez on the front end in a turf sprint, which I think is probably a downgrade, but at least you're getting Luis Saez in his element, trying to get on the lead on a turf race. So I think the horse fits. Like you said, it probably is going to be too short of a price to win bet, but if we're looking horizontally, this is going to be a horse that I would need to use.
And you mentioned one other thing I was going to ask. You had mentioned that the 6's maiden race wins this all day. What does Briz have for a fig on the 6's maiden?
90.
Yeah, okay, because Bear only has it as a 67. So I was just wondering what the offset was.
What do they have the 8's maiden winner at Belmont, the 6 furlong at Belmont?
The 6 furlong Belmont, 79.
Wow, that's a huge difference. It's a 1 point difference on Briz. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I haven't fully capped the race. I think you guys covered a lot of the logical horses. I was actually looking at that 4, Josh, but at 4-1, I can't go there. I was thinking you'd get 10-1 on this horse. And if you get 10-1, the horse might be interesting because it did set some really honest fractions and easily held on last out. But yeah, there's a lot of questions for me to answer at 4-1 that I won't pay to find out at that price. You guys touched on a lot of the obvious, or maybe not obvious, but ones that I also liked, such as like the 6 horse, for example. Probably the 1 horse I was kind of looking at a little more that we didn't talk about was the 10, Light in the Sky. Normally, it's kind of against my rule to bet a horse that's leaving Linda Rice's barn. She's kind of one of those trainers like other trainers who I don't like to bet when horses leave their barn.
Like Rudy Rodriguez.
Yeah, Rudy Rodriguez, Danny Gargan, folks like that, Brad Cox. So, but I looked at this horse and the 2 turf races didn't come back super fast on Briz, but she actually did beat the favorite in her maiden race at Saratoga, My Sassy Sarah. And then the horse kind of tried the dirt and didn't particularly care for it, and then went back to turf in a pretty tough race at Laurel and just kind of ran a middle of the pack race. I'm assuming you're getting a price on this horse, and I'm kind of playing this more of a stats angle than anything else, where Jose Ortiz gets up, which I think is he was on board for the maiden breaker. So I like the fact he gets back on here. Horacio De Paz is adding blinkers, which Briz is showing is a 36% move in the past 3 years. And he does well enough off the layoff, 17%. And it looks like that last work was a bullet 48 flat, fast to 26. So I'm assuming I'm getting double digits on this horse. I don't have morning lines, but I'm assuming probably 12-1. So
horse is up. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's a horse that I think could be interesting. You're projecting some improvement from 2 to 3, of course. Pedigree screams turf sprinter. Winning jock gets back aboard with the trainer. New barn with a high percentage move, adding blinkers. At double digits, I find that horse kind of interesting.
It's 8-1 on the morning line.
A little shorter than I thought, but if you can get 10-1, I think that horse is usable.
This will be. I mean, this will be one of those races where one or two of these horses will take a ton of money, and you're gonna get, I think, a good price if you're looking at like single horses. I think on one or two of these horses, I think like at least one of the horses of the 4, the 6, and the my goodness, is it the 8? Not the 8. What was the other horse we were talking about, Mark? The 12. The 4. Yeah, one of those horses will probably float up to win bet territory, but. Tom did ask about the 14 Ancient Brown here.
His 14 I love. I would like that horse a ton more, though, if it got somewhat of a decent post draw. That's going to be, you're in the parking lot, and those sort of anything outside the 12 path is like a 2% win at 6 furlongs at Belmont. I think I like the horse. I think the horse has a ton of upside potential, but man, that post draw is rough. You need a lot more than that 8-1 morning line to make that horse win bettable. Maybe use underneath, as a B or a C on tickets if you're getting a little spready this race, which I think I will be. But it's just a horse that I have a hard time getting to. And I also know somebody had mentioned the 5, Winifred J, which is a horse that this was probably the target, but I have a really hard time getting behind a 1-for-15 lifetime horse that took 9 starts to break its maiden. Yeah, JJ comes back, who was on it when it did break its maiden at Belmont, but it's just not the type of horse that I have any confidence in. Loves to hit the board, but really just doesn't like to get its picture taken, which is always a scary thing.
It looks like John Massey's asking about the 3 single verse. It's Rob Atras trained.
Yeah, Rob Atras has absolutely been an aberration the last 2 years. He's hitting at 30-something%. He's and he's very, very good at claiming horses out of races. My big downside here is Santana on the turf. He's just not the jock I want in a turf race. But post position draw is great, and it's a horse that I think gets left on the board. I think you get a lot more than that 8-1. So there's definitely some value in the 3 here.
It's kind of crazy. My form actually shows Bruce Brown as the trainer, but I pulled these probably on Wednesday afternoon, so maybe it wasn't final. Did he get?
Yeah,
well, it wasn't
November 16th was when I say previously trained by Bruce Brown as.
Oh wow,
yeah, that's what I see too.
Yeah, I guess my only comment there is, from recollection, I think Atras is a really good trainer, but I think he's terrible on turf.
He is terrible on turf.
2% or something, I think.
He is a 0% turf sprint trainer. He is 7% dirt to turf and a 9% turf trainer overall. So when you hit it,
it's a little better than I thought.
But... Yeah, when you hit it 31%, but you're only 9% on turf, it says that it's definitely not your game. But I don't know why this horse moved. They obviously thought a lot of this horse dropping it in a lot of overnight stakes. Obviously, they're at Finger Lakes and Aqueduct, but it's the 1B horse that I have. I went 4 deep, and this was my B.
Yeah, this is like the this is like the quintessential probably state bred, like New York horse. Like they paid a lot of money for this horse, probably to hope they got something good here for the state bred stuff. That tends to be pretty lucrative there in New York. So yeah, I mean, if you go back, at least once again, I'm looking at Briz. If you go back to Saratoga turf race, and its only try on turf, was one of its better races. I think probably like the second best race it ran. Did end up breaking its maiden at the Belmont Fall Meet. Mine Shaft is okay on the turf. Is about 10% on the turf. But Seeking the Gold, it's 12 is only 12% on the turf too. Interesting.
And Bobby Marks, not to beat you up or anything on your Winifred J. The other thing I forgot to say about this horse was this horse absolutely desperately needs the lead. And the problem is he's going to have pace pressure from a couple of others in here. Probably, the four stronger than just to the inside is going to be pressing the pace. And I don't think he gets loose. And if he doesn't get loose, I don't think there's any way he wins here.
And the thing is, too, is that Stronger Than You Know has got 21 speed. Winford J does not have 21 speed. So I think that Stronger Than You Knows is faster.
You're
Really.
also comparing Saez to Castellano, and if I want a jockey for a turf sprint to make the lead, I know which one I'd rather have.
Which
it's
one?
Saez.
I was gonna make you clarify that because JJ can be a hustle bug.
Yeah, he can be, but I think I still have Gulfstream in the memory and not so much Saratoga.
Yeah, just say he rides differently in New York than he does.
He does.
Well, and Bobby actually asked a pretty good question. What do you? We don't often talk about this kind of stuff, but I know both of you. I mean, myself as well, but I just haven't been playing much the past couple weeks. But we all play Belmont quite a bit. So it's easier for us to kind of like, it's not like Derby Day where, you know, Chase and I are probably the only ones who actually look at Churchill on a frequent basis. But Belmont, I think we all pretty much play. But Bobby's asking what we think about the turf course. How has the turf course been playing here at Belmont?
It's been pretty speedy from what I've been seeing. But again, Belmont's a weird turf course as well because the sprints start down the backstretch. Obviously, it's a big track, and then a lot of the commonly run distances, mile, 8.5, 9, 9.5, all start on staggers weirdly on the corner with sort of taped off sections. So each of them have some really pronounced biases. I've been seeing things be pretty fair, but with a bit of a speed bias. Definitely you want to be forwardly placed from what I've been seeing on the turf, and it's been carrying speed pretty well. Again, though, there's, I think, some chance of thunderstorms. So if they get some rain, it might change things up a bit.
Yeah, I haven't watched. I didn't watch any Belmont today, and I only watched maybe a few races last weekend. I know in the early part of the meet, the turf did seem pretty speed friendly. I think it also depends which turf course you're talking about, either the Widener or the Inner. But it did seem consistently a little speedy at the beginning of the meet. I think the last weekend I played Belmont pretty heavy. It was probably not this past weekend, but 2 weekends ago, and it looked fair to me. I haven't noticed really any post bias other than maybe getting stuck wide isn't good, but that's true of any turf race. I think the Belmont configuration where you do have some like one-turn miles and whatnot is a little bit interesting, that the ground loss isn't quite as big of a deal for being a little bit wide, and you do kind of stagger the gates and start in some wonky positions. But yeah, I haven't noticed a pronounced bias that's really going to change the way I handicap for Saturday.
I mean, if I see Mooch in the speed horse, I'm just betting it. So
tired third.
But yeah, this is a huge field. I love it. Like, finally, hey, there's more than 5 horses. Let's take a look at the Acorn now, which we have 7 horses here. And I mean, can we be honest? Like, I know Aragona doesn't like to stray from going lower than even money, but Gamin's going to be what, 2 to 5 here?
Yeah, 2 to 5.
What's the morning line? Even money?
Even money.
Probably. I think. I don't know. I'm just biased because I want to bet against her.
Oh, I'm going to bet against her because Bob Baffert horses, quite honestly, have just not shipped well to New York this whole meet. He had an extremely short-priced horse. He's had 2 starters, and one of them was like 1 to 5 and completely whiffed and missed the board. The other horse finished 3rd, but a really tired horse. Bob Baffert horses, obviously it's Belmont Stakes Day. Bob's historically shipped very well for these big days, but from what I've been seeing so far this meet, his horses have not shipped well. And who was? I mean, Gamin's bet was really impressive. That last out race was a huge figure and extremely impressive. But I don't think this is as binary a race as people are trying to make it out to be.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the race goes through Gamin. In the past, I'd have been stupid and told you, like, I'm tossing Gamin completely. I think she probably has to get used. She very well could project as lone speed with the rail as the already fastest horse in the race, subjectively, I guess. My kind of issue is I just don't think she's beaten anything. Like, okay, she won a 4-horse field in her maiden when she was 2 lengths clear. going 46 to the half, going only 6.5 furlongs at Santa Anita. And came back at Oaklawn, and once again had an uncontested lead and was all out to hold off Speech, who is an okay horse, but is also kind of a notorious hanger. Speech has run second 4 times in a row. It kind of just doesn't like to get the job done. Now, they were 6 lengths clear of the field, but the field sucked. So, I don't know. Going from an optional claiming 100 to a grade 1 here, horse is going to be way overbet. I think the horse probably needs used, but for me, it's more from a pace perspective than anything else. Yeah, you can argue that maybe the 2 Lucreza makes the lead, or the 4 Casual, or I don't know, like maybe the 5 Glass Ceilings, but 2 of those 3 jocks are not known to send. And our Ricardo Santana, like he's a little aggressive, and on the stretch out, maybe he sends, but there's a real good chance with the inside draw that the 1 just gets the lead to herself. And that's really what I'm most afraid of, more so than the fact that I think this horse is any kind of freak talent or anything like that. It is a shame, though, that we have to bet this race a month or 2 after the whole positive drug test thing came back, and we still have no more information.
So just so you do know, Evil Bob Dole's in the chat, and I think he's probably going to get the shirt printer ready, because you said a lot of shirt material over there, Caleb. There was a lot of shirt material coming out. So I just want to make sure that we know that when your ticket comes up, I don't see that ticket where you just fade Gamine completely. It sounds like you learned your lesson, but I'm not.
We'll see.
I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I mean, Gamine looks really tough here. The other horses that I am somewhat interested in Lucreza and Casual here, their last race pace figure wise, both are coming up pretty similar. They're coming up negative on the 1C and 2C calls, which generally means that for the day and the track, it was a relatively slow pace. And they both have humongous late pace figures, which when you're just off or just on the lead, usually means that the lead is really soft, and you're just trying to catch up to a loose horse. I mean, the speed figures look good. Obviously, the Briz speed figures aren't that great. I'm sure Gamine's Buyer Fig is probably 4 or 5 points higher than Lucreza and Casual's last out.
Try 14 then.
Jesus Christ.
But Casual only 8 points faster than Casual.
Yeah. So I mean, on Briz they look a lot closer. But yeah, I have a hard time getting around Gamine here. I think I'm once again going to take Bob Dole's advice and not try and reinvent the wheel here. And I'll probably just have to single and move on at this point. But the other 2 horses I like, Lucreza and Casual. I think if the pace is slow, they can still kind of close in and make up some ground. Glass Ceiling is kind of interesting. But I mean, who the fuck knows what Rosario will do here? So obviously Rosario is going to win this race. I just put him in the winner's circle.
I know that's crazy. The buyers are that have Gamine that much faster, because they actually have on Thoroughgraphs, Lucreza is actually the fastest horse in the race, and I think that number might be legit if you go back to see what Swiss Skydiver has done in her 2 starts since the Gulfstream Oaks. She's beat Venetian Harbor, who was your early Oaks favorite, and then just crushed a field at Santa Anita last out. So I think that that fig's probably legit. It was a very slow pace that day. They kind of just ran in place, but I think the 2 would be my top pick here. Actually, the 1 is more of a defensive play for me, and if you go by the sheets, the 1 is actually no faster than the 4 Casual either. So it's interesting how the different products are kind of rating these horses a little bit differently. But I liked Lucreza anyway. So I wish I had a different jockey that might give her a bit more of an aggressive ride. But regardless, that's probably my top pick, with Gamine being a more of a defensive use.
I just think it's interesting you're betting a Frenchman in New York.
Well, I know Mark won't be.
Nah, reluctantly, I'm going to use Lucrezia as a C. But yeah, I mean, my two A's are Gamine and Casual. I don't really trust Baffert on the East Coast. And at that kind of price, I'll try to get cute with using the most logical second place horse in Casual to get around him. Lucrezia would probably be a B if not for the jock who apparently forgets how to ride when he's outside of Kentucky. So yeah,
And
Lucrezia.
Louisiana, we'll give him Louisiana.
We give it Louisiana as well. I mean,
And
okay,
Illinois, actually, because I think he comes up and he just like kills on.
It's really just the Kentucky circuit, like the
Yeah.
Churchill Fairgrounds, Arlington circuit.
Yeah. If it's a Churchill Downs, if it's a Churchill Downs owned and operated track, you can bet the Frenchman. Otherwise, you cannot.
so if he's in a flyover state, then he's bettable. But otherwise, just toss Frenchie.
I think
Yeah,
New Orleans has something to say about you calling Louisiana a flyover
yeah.
state.
Louisiana is not a flyover state. Okay, you have a valid point there.
You're pretty lost flying over Louisiana.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would much rather have Lucrezia with a different jock. Honestly, I would love if Santino shipped up an actual aggressive jock who would be, more positionally biased. But the horse broke its maiden with Julian Up, where he apparently made the lead on a horse and held it throughout every call. There's a first time for everything.
Kentucky.
It was in Kentucky. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. I proved my point. But the horse makes sense. I would just be much happier with a different jock.
So John Massey actually corrected me. He said it's Florent Giroux that dominates Million Day. I always get them mixed up. But what's really funny about Florent Giroux, and this happened obviously before I followed horse racing, but from what I heard, Florent Giroux, when Keeneland was on the all-weather track, was like unstoppable. Like he was like the greatest jock in like the freaking country on the damn all-weather track. So I still have no idea why this man doesn't just freaking go to like Woodbine, where all he's gonna ride is turf and all weather all the time, and like just freaking kill it up there. Especially now that oh man, what's the jock's name who just retired? Yuroko da Silva retired. I mean, he'd be riding for Ward and Cassie all the time. I mean, it's the same thing he does, He'd clean up.
Yeah, and also, I don't think your Keeneland stats correct because Julian won the riding title at Keeneland like 3 or 4 years in a row when it was on Poly. So,
yeah, so I'm getting my French guys mixed up still, but
I can make a whole bunch of inappropriate comments there. I will make none of them and just say Julian is when I say French jocks, Julian's the only one I dislike. I like Flo. Flo is a great jock, on turf, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, John says that's why Holland came over to race at Woodbine. That makes sense. Just taking a look at the chat here. Tommy, once again, saying famous last words, don't trust Baffert on the easy coast. I guess he meant east. Oh, he did. Dennis giving out exactas at Evangeline, 12-1 and 6-1, a photo for the win. Joe Rocha saying he thinks Perfect Alibi may get a nice setup coming off the pace in this race.
I feel like we should at least talk about that horse.
Yeah,
I don't really like her, but
I don't like her, but yeah, I mean,
she's the only Grade 1 winner in the field, and I think that at least merits discussion.
And she's a Grade 1 winner and has, again, horses that 2 to 3 year old jump can oftentimes be a massive improvement angle. She needs to find, 20 points of buyer speed here, but I don't hate her here. And if you want to, you're going to get every bit of 5-1. I bet you're going to probably get every bit of 10-1 on her. But sure, I mean, I don't hate going there and trying to get around this what will be a short price favorite.
I don't like the layoff. I mean, honestly, like if you look at her race August 4th at Saratoga, won the I'm gonna friggin' mess this up, Adirondack. So won that Adirondack, whatever. It won the mountain thing that's up in northern New York.
She also won the Spinaway.
Yeah, and then came back and won the Spinaway, but was a massively improved figure from that G2 to G1 win. So I mean, has shown that she can win off the layoff, but I mean, definitely it showed a ton of improvement second off the layoff. So I think that this might be a horse that you bet next time out. But I mean, if you get a good enough price, I mean that Spinaway is at least competitive in this field.
Yeah, I think the ultimate like barometer for can a horse fire fresh is the maiden race, and this horse broke her maiden by 10 lengths. So yeah, like the layoff's a bit of a concern. I mean, grade one off the layoff's always a bit of a concern, I think. But at a price, at some price, she makes sense, and she's certainly the class of the field based on her 2-year-old form. It does make me wonder if she's going to get the pace that she might want, or even if she really wants to go this far. But at some price, she does make sense, and she's the kind of one that would beat me at 6 or 8 to 1, and I'd be sitting there like, wow, like I just completely ignored this horse, looking at Gamine and Lucrezia.
Yeah, I would completely agree. If she wins this, I would not be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if she took that big step forward. Cassie's been really cold this Belmont meet, but she has every right to step forward here, and it wouldn't be a shocker at all.
Yeah, I mean Cassie's just not. I mean, I think Cassie's a really solid trainer. He's kind of just just middle of the road. I mean like right now he's got nice horses, but like he's not like Chad Brown or
No.
any of these other like super trainers. I mean, I guess he is a super trainer. He's training everywhere, but he's kind of like after you name like the top like 5 or 6 guys, he's in like that next tier. But I mean, he does not really have great success. I think off the layoff, he's not like a Chad Brown or I guess Pletcher, even though I thought Pletcher wasn't that great off the layoff. But the stats have corrected my thought on that. But yeah, I mean, I think that Perfect Alibi is definitely going to make some noise this summer, even though we're halfway through the summer and just getting to the start of the summer racing. But yeah, I definitely think that we'll be looking at Perfect Alibi in some graded stakes later. But why don't we move on to the 6 furlong Disco Partner Stakes here? They need to
rename them already. They really do.
The Jaipur Stakes here. 6 furlongs inner turf for 3-year-olds and up. Mark.
Oh, you're putting me up first, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, again, this is an extremely competitive field. Caleb and I have gone back and forth with Caleb thinking this is the worst field that's ever been assembled for a horse race. And me thinking that this is actually, you hope that monster shows up. You hope that 6 furlong turf freak like a Disco Partner shows up here and is really impressive. But there's a lot of these that are interesting. This is a really competitive field. There's nobody that you go, oh my God, this horse is, just massively better than anybody else. I tend to really like the mare here going versus the boys, Alexandra. I think that's how you say her name. Alexandra? I don't know. I'm the slaughter.
I'm not going to even correct you. Go ahead. Keep saying it.
Okay, cool. I'll say it 10 different ways every time I pronounce her name. I think distance should be, falls right in what she wants. She's been legitimate, and she's one of those kind of wins every other type, and this is the every other. She had a nice prep in May, in the Monrovia where she was a second. At Santa Anita, and Rosario sticks here, and I think she's loaded for bear. And if you get 7-2, she's, I think, very, very win bettable in here. And she's also a mare who's beaten the boys previously. So this sort of a class, I think people always look at that as being a class jump, and I don't think it really is here. Is here for her. The other horse that I was really super interested in here is Pure Sensation. Again, a sort of every other type, but Pure Sensation loves to sort of hit the board. Horse probably gets a real setup here, being probably the speed of the speed. And I guess when I looked at this race, I sort of wanted that, like I wanted the speed of the speed horse in here, and that I wanted sort of the deadpan closer in case it gets stupid fast and front, and a horse can pick off pieces with probably the best closer jock, in the country. And I think those are the two that I want on top. And you can make a horse, a case in this race for every horse that is not named Hidden Scroll. So,
Caleb, have you seen the morning lines yet?
I have not.
Okay, what price do you think Hidden Scroll is on the morning line?
I would say he's the favorite, and I would say he's probably 2-1, 5-2.
I mean, he's not even close. But what price would you need on Hidden Scroll to even like consider betting?
Realistically, 12 to 15-1.
The horse is 8-1 on the morning line. I don't think you get 8-1.
You won't get. He's going to be probably your second choice.
Yeah,
Agreed. He will be your second choice, and Johnny Velasquez is again going to get full on bucking Bronco out of the gate. So,
like 8-1's a joke. Like I would need probably twice that. We all get Hidden Scroll T-shirts if he wins.
yeah, we're all getting Hidden Scroll T-shirts.
My approach to this race is I'm handicapping this race like Hidden Scroll is not even in it. Honestly, like I'm paying him zero mind. If he beats me, he beats me. Just completely ignoring this horse. I agree with Mark on Pure Sensation. I think that is your speed of the speed. Horse kind of owes me money from last time when I thought he was the speed of the speed in the Breeders' Cup, and he kind of fucked up the break. And Belvoir Bay from the parking lot draw ends up clearing and taking him all the way.
like the only race I got right all weekend.
That race hurt.
Yeah, that one kind of killed my early pick 5, which just kind of messed everything up for the rest of that day. But I think getting Irad here, this horse has fired fresh before off of layoffs. So I'm not too worried about the layoff here. And I think the big thing is, I think there's a lot of horses in this race that are like true 5 furlong types. Like a lot of the California and Gulfstream turf sprints are there's true 5 to 5.5 furlong turf sprints. And that extra half furlong makes a difference when you're going this fast, this short. So I'm kind of looking towards a horse like Pure Sensation. That, yeah, he's a 9-year-old coming off of a layoff, but he's proven that he handles 6 furlongs just fine. So I don't think the distance should be an issue. And I think that he probably gets the lead here. I don't know that Hidden Scroll could actually go with him. That's assuming Hidden Scroll doesn't toss the jock. I do think the plan is going to be for Hidden Scroll to send pretty hard, but I just don't think he can go with Pure Sensation and put that one away and then hold off the closers. And if he does, then God bless him, I guess, but I won't have him at 3-1 or whatever he goes off at 5-2. Other than Pure Sensation, I didn't like Alexandra that much. I just don't think she's fast enough. It's a tough race. I hate everybody. Of all the shippers, I guess I was most interested in Stubbins. He really seems like one of those horses that was a down the hill specialist at Santa Anita that kind of has been looking for his place ever since they got rid of the down the hill races at 6.5 furlongs. So they kind of tried him at 5, and it might just be like a little too sharp for him. And then they tried him again at a mile or a mile and a 16th, and it's just a little bit too far for him. So I really think the 6 furlong distance is going to be a really good distance for him. He had a little bit of trouble in that grade 3 last out. That was not a very strong field for the record, but regardless, he did have an excuse. It was his first start in 6 months, and he did have some traffic late. So, and I really just think he's one that's going to benefit a lot from that extra half furlong. It's going to be sitting in that second flight of horses behind a few others. And he's kind of the off the pace horse that I'd be most interested in. I'd be a little bit spread here. Like I think White Flag is a shot too, but I think that Pure Sensation and then Stubbins might be my top 2.
So you guys are going to have to educate me because I always forget this. Because just like I get the French jocks mixed up, I get my California trainers mixed up. Who's the turf sprinting trainer? Is that Miller or is that O'Neill?
Peter Miller.
Peter Miller is the guy who just like always finds these fucking turf sprinters, right?
Yeah.
For magically.
The West Coast race.
Wow.
I actually did like Texas Wedge a bit in here. My only real concern with Texas Wedge was has not run at this distance, but at 5 and 5.5 has seemed to find success at both of them. Did finish behind Stubbins in the Daytona, and was 4 wide. So maybe that kind of hurt him a little bit there. But the World of Trouble stakes was a pretty good win there, and then the horse he beat ended up coming back to win. So I think Texas Wedge might fit in here. I kind of agree with you, Mark, that pure sensation, and Caleb, since Caleb also agreed with Mark about pure sensation being speed. The only thing, and I mean, maybe this is just me being crazy, but all of these big like speed figures and these big pace figures and these races that he's won have been at Parks, and we all know Parks figures aren't exactly the most accurate when it comes to things. So I'm a little reluctant to say that I can't see another horse getting the lead. And if I want another speed horse, I mean, I guess I might have to go to the Hidden Scroll. Well, I mean, Tom says that he can make a case off of on Hidden Scroll. The only case that I could even remotely make about Hidden Scroll is that Pure Sensations maybe not that fast, or not as fast as he might look like on paper, and when he actually gets a sprinting horse that might actually be faster than him, could be a little bit of trouble. But I have no fucking clue what the hell Hidden Scroll is gonna do. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't has Hidden Scroll had a history of having problems out of the gate, or having problems getting into the gate? Because he just fucking flipped Johnny V. Like, it was just really fucking weird what happened last time trying the turf for the first time. So I have no idea what's going to happen. I agree with you, Caleb. I think that I probably need double digits to even remotely like win bet this horse. But if I were playing something horizontally, I would have to take a look, because I don't think I'm going to take Pure Sensation at the short price. But I guess I wouldn't be crazy if Hidden Scroll got bet down more than Pure Sensation. So this is going to be one I have to watch the tote board a little bit. But I actually do like Hidden Scroll a little bit in this spot, but it's completely price dependent.
Hey,
How short do you go before it's too short on Hidden Scroll?
Oh, I think like 7-1, 6-1. I don't think that you could
Holding his morning line. I have some bad news for you.
No, he's not going to. I mean, if he's probably going to be, like you said, he's probably going to be 3-1 or 4-1. But I think that of the two speed horses, I would rather have Hidden Scroll. On looking at it from a pace figure like standpoint, and which is how I tend to bet a lot of these things. I mean, his works coming into this race are looking pretty good, but I have a hard time advocating as Hidden Scroll being like my top choice, and like, hey, this should be like a single A, like this is like a best bet kind of thing, when the first time they tried the turf, he lost the rider. And like you said, he got bet down to 3-1 last race, and I didn't think he belonged at 3-1. So probably going to be too short to bet. But if I'm playing something horizontally, is I think, in my opinion, a must use. But I think my top pick here is probably going to be Texas Wedge.
Hey, Josh. First thing, I think I would need more like, let's say a 10-1 sort of range to get excited about Hidden Scroll, just given the fact that how much of a flop he's been, and the fact that they had to drive him down to an optional 35 for him to get a win, kind of a thing. But when you talk about Pure Sensation, look back at the Troy. Obviously, it's a 5.5 in the inner at Saratoga, especially the sprints. The fractions can be a little wonky, but the horse went 21 flat, and got beat by Leinster, who set the track record that day at 5.5 in Disco Partner. There's nobody of that class that's in this field, and that horse was chasing just absolutely freakish fractions. So I know you're saying that Pure Sensation is a park special, but I think that Saratoga race really proves otherwise.
Yeah, I see what Josh is saying about the park special in terms of winning, but I don't think that Hidden Scroll can rate. And I think your point, Mark, is that Pure Sensation is faster. Did he lose a step in his 9-year-old season? Like, maybe. But I think that he's proven he's faster so far. And Hidden Scroll has not proven he can sit behind horses. So in light of those two things, I don't know that there's a price that I can really get to Hidden Scroll if that's realistic here. Bill, I'm also showing Belmont is pretty cold for the meet. 2 for 24. And over the past 3 years, he's 1 for 29 in second grass race. This move screams, I have a good horse that I don't know what to do with. I tried him routing on dirt. I tried him sprinting on dirt. I tried him routing on turf. So let's try him a grade 1 in a turf sprint. I just can't get there.
Yeah, obviously, Hidden Scroll is a very talented horse. I don't think any of us are saying he's anything other than that. He's obviously showing them stuff in the morning that they're going, this horse is legitimate, and we need to find a place for him. I just don't know what that place is, and there's so many things in here that just shoot up a ton of red flags. I mean, obviously, they tried him long on the dirt, they tried him short on the dirt, they've tried it, then he freaked. He tossed Johnny for no apparent reason in that mile turf optional 62, and now you're kind of stepping into the deep end of the pool. Maybe, but man, I need a substantial price to get there.
I mean, like I said, I think that win bet territory, I'm with you. I would probably need at least the morning line. I guess I could take a little bit off of it to possibly try and win bet. But I think horizontally, I think that this horse actually has a pretty good chance at winning this race. And I think I like the horse probably as I don't know, maybe third or fourth choice in this race. But like you said, I think he'll probably be a lot shorter. But pace wise, I think that Hidden Scroll's gonna have a bit of advantage. It looks like why is oh okay. I thought Evil Bob Dole was calling for Chase because we were talking about Hidden Scroll for this long. But I mean, hey, Tom agrees with me, which is a rarity. But he thinks that JV won't send, and if that is the case, then I don't like Hidden Scroll. Never mind. I said anything like that. I need him to send. He's got to go.
He has to outbreak Pure Sensation for him to have a shot, I think.
Pure Sensation needs to scratch for a Hidden Scroll to have a chance in this race.
We'll see. Just taking a look at the chat. Looks like someone's asking if anybody likes. Does Belmont have any other horses races 1 through 8?
I'm not sure.
Race 6, it looks like he's got a horse. Because I think was he at 4,999? Is that why they're asking?
Oh, that could be.
Mott has a horse in the 6th, the 9th, and the 10th.
Oh man, I would love for Hidden Scroll to be 5,000. Oh man, that'd be great. That'd be a shirt. Yeah, and Tom's kind of reiterating what I said. It's not about a win bet; it's about horizontal. Bobby thinks that we'll get something closer. He thinks that you'll get something out of Hidden Scroll, like what you saw on the slop when he hits the turf. I mean, if that's the case, then this horse is unbeatable on this spot. Tom's talking about the 2. We already talked about the 2. John Massey asking where the hell Chamberlain Bridge is when he needs him. I don't know who Chamberlain Bridge is.
Chamberlain Bridge retire? 2 years ago?
Probably. Yeah. And John, I think, kind of agrees. He's like, if Hidden Scroll doesn't get involved in the race and Pure Sensation gets an easy lead. I mean, if Pure Sensation gets an easy lead, he wins. So. And Evil Bob Dole said he's got something in the works he's going to post tomorrow. I think in regards to bias data. So that will be that'll be up in Discord at some point.
Yeah, Evil Bob Dole's got some really legitimate bias data that's posted. It's pinned in the Naira channel for Belmont, and it is extremely, extremely good info. Just simple things of what post positions tend to be more live, and things like that, where you can sort of, if you have a horse that's kind of on that cusp of an A or a B or a B or a C, you can look at that data and go like, oh, okay, that sways me in a direction. It's great data.
God, I need a drink with all this fucking chalk I'm picking.
Can we get on to the?
Yeah, that's why I had to take a drink. So
yeah, no, you need a drink to go into the 9 furlong Belmont Stakes.
Oh, so how poetic is it that they probably changed this strictly for the silver-haired fuck we know as Bob Baffert, and yeah, Baffert doesn't have a horse in here.
Yeah, and this we know was changed for one horse in the Bob Baffert stable, who is retired now, along with the.
I don't think they've technically retired Charlatan.
Have they not technically? I thought
No,
Charlotte. Oh, it was a needs
Oh
and needed or
he's
something.
off the Derby trail.
Ah,
I
yeah.
wonder if those guys are gonna try fucking run him in the Classic or something stupid, or the Dirt Mile. Although, I mean, they have the Dirt Mile winner in Improbable, so I don't know why they would run anything else. Yeah, I did just say that. Just yeah, go ahead, take a drink there, Mark. You're gonna need one. Yeah,
If you need to make another drink.
the Grade 1 Belmont. Tis the Laws are 6-5 favorite here. Mark, you started off like every single thing, so Caleb, why don't you take this one?
Yeah. So I think I'd be going to the window to bet Tis the Law at 6-5. And I don't bet horses like inside of 2-1 or 5-2. I kind of just think this is not a great Belmont. They made it a 9 furlong, 1 turn race, trying to get a good field. And I just think your main contenders, a lot of them skipped. Maxfield is missing and I think injured now. Charlatan, Nadal, both injured. Honor AP, Authentic, ran in the Santa Anita Derby just 2 weeks ago. Some other horse I forget is running in the Bluegrass Basin and a few others. Like, not the best Belmont I've seen. And I just think when I initially looked at this race, I'm like, well, Tiz the Law is the horse to beat, but how can I get around him? And my thoughts are Tiz the Law hates being inside of other horses. Maybe it was jockey orders, or maybe it was just he's not comfortable. But his 2 worst races came in the Jockey Club when he was behind other horses, and then in the Holy Bull, which despite a nice win, jockeys, Franco slammed the brakes on, steadied the horse, guided him outside, and then re-rallied to win going away anyway because he was that much better than that field. With him getting an outside post, that's perfect for him. And the other thing I thought might help the case against him would be if Tap It to Win enters and can get a soft lead. Tap It to Win did enter, but Four Left decided to make a last minute appearance, and I don't think Four Left has any chance of actually winning the race. He does present a pace factor, if nothing else, and I think that he's going to be involved early and probably take them as far as he can, at least for the first 6 or 7 furlongs. And Tap It to Win's not a need the lead type, but it certainly helps his case if he's on the front setting soft fractions. So yeah, it's kind of been a disappointing race for me because I hate going to the favorite, but I really think that Tiz the Law is the horse to beat here. I think the board has this one relatively right. I don't think you'll get 6-5 on Tiz the Law. I think you'll get more like 4-5. I think the next 2 picks would be Tap It to Win at 6-1 would be the value here, but I don't think he'll get that. I think he's going to be more like second to third choice in the 3-1 to 7-2 ballpark. Sol Volante will take money, and I think he's appropriately priced. I just have a hard time seeing. I know people are going to build a case against Tiz the Law, and I understand it. Chivalry and 8th Indian kind of came back to suck in their next 2 races, and he didn't come home that fast in the last furlong of his Florida Derby and so on and so forth. But he would have to regress a lot. And I think a lot of these other horses would have to take a step forward to really be able to pull off the upset here. And I just don't think I see it happening.
Yeah, Mark, are you going to build a case? Are you going to build a case against Tiz the Law?
I'm not. For me, Tiz the Law is the only A really on this field. Depending on how you're approaching the race, you can make a case that there are no Bs, which is probably the case I'm making, and you can really get spready as C's. I think he wins. He just towers over this field on class, on speed, on everything you'd want. he's just better than these. He's proven, and I have a really hard time getting around Tis the Law. I don't like the horse. I shouldn't say I don't like the horse. It's the wrong way to put it. I don't love the horse. He's not a horse that just blows me away. But I think he's the most logical here. And I think this is just a race where I don't want to get too cute trying to reinvent the wheel and getting around him. As sort of C-type horses, yeah, Dr. Post or a Pneumatic or a Solvolante or Tap It to Win all make sense. Maybe they win, but I think that this is a case where Tis the Law wins this race 90% of the time, and somebody who's not Tis the Law wins it. Has a chance, but it becomes very hard to say Tis the Law is your A and it's these 3 or 4 or even this one. It sort of feels like you need to kind of make him your A, and then as a C you buy the race if you can afford to do so. I'm not going to make a case to beat him. I think he towers over this. He should win this. I have a hard time understanding a setup where he doesn't win this. I don't know what that is. I'm amazingly pissed off at Naira. I think it was a really cowardly decision for them to cut this back and make this, no longer be a 12 furlong race. I understand we have a global pandemic coming on, but it's a pure act of cowardice for them to say, we want to appease Bob Baffert and let's completely change a race that's been that way for 100 and something years. It's pathetic. It's terrible. And it's extremely frustrating that Naira played that game to make Bob Baffert happy.
So here's my question. I'm looking at Pneumatic. And I'm looking at Pneumatic's work pattern. Is this the Asmussen power move, Caleb?
So that is the Asmussen power move. It's the 2 work prior fast bullet going like 4 or 5 furlongs with typically a 3 furlong slow breeze. It looks like he did it 4 furlongs this time, being a longer race. That is the Asmussen power move. You're right.
Interesting. If so I guess I just want to talk through this a little bit, right? I'm looking at a couple of these races that these horses are coming out of. I'm gonna add 2 horses to this discussion, right? Maxfield, who I know is not here, and New York Traffic, who both ran in the Matt win. If those 2 horses are in this race, do you think that this changes your opinion on Tis the Law being like the clear-cut favorite at 6-5?
Massively. Yeah, those are in this year's 3-year-old crop. Those are legitimate horses. Whereas, sort of one of the legitimate horses showed up here. Those would be legitimate horses that if either of them are in here would have to be major consideration. Are they the horse I use on top? I don't know, but it completely changes the complexion in the classiness of this race.
Yeah, I'm not interested in New York Traffic. I don't think that horse is very good. Maxfield, as anyone who watched our stream knows, I was very against. I was very wrong. But ultimately, I was very right because he's not a sound horse and he's off the trail once again. So
you're right.
This race,
technicality, you're right by
he's gonna claim victory on that, dude. He's just gonna fucking go.
The horse isn't sound, and it won and beat you, but isn't sound. Therefore, you were right.
That horse had to be so tired that he cannot run anymore in order to beat me.
Yes, he gave all he had to prove me wrong in that one race, and that just knocked him out. But I would take Tis the Law at 6-5 in this race, even with Maxfield and New York Traffic. I think he's been what I thought of the most impressive Derby horse pretty much since his 2-year-old season. I know the Baffert horses got the hype. They have to make it past May, which has been challenging. And Tis the Law has done nothing but get better. And I think Maxfield would make an argument for, a co-favorite or second choice, but Tis the Law would still be a clear-cut 1A to maybe a Maxfield's 1B in this race for me.
So I'm going to bring up one horse in here. I pretty much see this race the same as you guys. I think that Tis the Law is going to be hard to beat here, and I hate that because I really don't. I think I kind of agree with you, Mark. I don't really like the horse that much. I was against this horse last time it ran. What was it? The Florida Derby, and obviously just ran off the screen, made me look like an idiot. Yeah, I think that if you do get anywhere close to even money on this horse, I think that's a very bettable, a very bettable race, or bettable odds. Funny enough, if this was a longer race, I mean, I know, I think Tizlaw's out of Constitution, which is, tap it, and obviously gets the distance for the classic Belmont distance. But with Constitution still being a new sire, we haven't seen too many of his horses go super long. So I would be interested to see how that would have worked out if this was actually at the right distance. But obviously, we're all talking about hypotheticals. We have to actually bet the race that is placed in front of us, not hypothetical ones that we're talking about, like that Digital Derby that happened this year. But one horse, and I mean, Caleb, you already know which horse I'm going to talk about. So I don't even, I mean, you probably are already like, oh, here it comes. But the 6 horse here, 4 left. All right. When you look at the, the run styles, if you've watched any of, I think I did a Fast 5 on this topic specifically. He's the only E-style horse here, and he's got the largest Kieran speed figure or speed points here, the 7. So I think 4 left is 4 left's actually probably could get the lead here. We'll see. We'll see coming back from Dubai, what kind of shape the horse is going to be in. But I mean, it's at least kind of interesting seeing Jose Ortiz grab this mount, and I don't know. Like, there's something about this horse that intrigues me. Once again, I love betting speed. If you don't know, I see an E7 horse, I try and figure out a way to bet it. But I think that Tizelaw just outclasses this horse, and I'm sure that 4 left will probably have the lead for, I don't know, 3 or 4 furlongs and then just fade. But it's definitely one I'm going to watch. I think it's an interesting spot for the horse. Hasn't really done all that much in routing, with the exception of that win at Dubai. But yeah, has me at least a little intrigued to see how this horse is going to run. But yeah, everything runs through Tizelaw. The horse, out of the rest of the horses, the horse I'm most interested in is probably Sol Volante. I know is on short rest, coming back here, but had a heck of a win, really dug in, and won that race. I think Chivalry was a fairly short favorite in that race, and I think won by, put Chivalry away and just kind of went, or just passed by all of them. So
it was like 1-5 that race. Ended up dueling with Chivalry, and Sol Volante ended up winning. Yeah.
So I kind of like Sol Volante. I think Sol Volante at least has shown something, other than Tizelaw, who seems to. It was kind of like the charlatan problem, right? You saw a horse that was getting the lead all the time and didn't really seem like he was doing much. And here it looks like Tizelaw for the most part has been on relatively slow paces, just sitting one or two lengths off and closing into him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if there's a little bit more speed, or if the speed gets a little bit away from Tizelaw, what happens. But yeah, it's definitely the horse to beat here.
So 2 things I want to bring up. Evil Bob Dole asked in chat about sort of an ABC structure. How do you approach this race? And I think there's sort of that idea that you could be single A to Tizelaw, if you're on a skinnier ticket, and kind of ignore the rest of the field. Or if you have a little bit more, a little bit more budget, maybe you pick a few of these and make them C's. So tap it to win. So Volante, Max Player, kind of, Dr. Post and Pneumatic, those kind of 5, make them your C's. There's also very much a game theory approach to this, which would be the fact that that Tizelaw is going to be super short to close out that early pick, or that middle pick 5. There's a very good argument here from a completely game theory sort of standpoint that you make all of those 5 A's and you make Tizelaw a C, on a pick 5, hoping that this is probably a little bit of I don't think this is a amazingly hard sequence to get through. And the idea is that you would have massively outsized win payout or pick five payouts if you could get somebody like a Pneumatic or a Max Player home in that sort of a sequence. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can approach this as an ABC person structuring tickets. The best one really needs to come to you, your budget, and sort of your risk perspective. If you're somebody that really wants to hit that 1 in a million, or I should say 1 in a million, that really home run type ticket where you want a massive payout, there's some logic to playing sort of that inverted structure. And I say the one horse none of you guys have mentioned is Max Player. Real long layoff, Linda Rice horse.
Did Capone text you? Is this what happened or what?
No, actually, it was a horse, the only horse that I have. I am, fairly deep in this race, and I'm trying to figure out my structure, and that's the one horse we haven't really talked about. I know it's Capone's sort of horse, but this horse has been on a long layoff. First start as a 3-year-old. Yeah, you'd like to see a prep race in there, but seems to be training well. Linda has been absolutely ice cold this meet so far, and you're getting Rosario up here on a closer. It seems to, the run style or the jock style really fits the horse. Doesn't Max Player make some sense in here?
No. So I like Max Player. I think I actually have like a $2 Derby futures bet on him, to be honest. But I hate the fact that they changed this race to a 1-turn mile, 9 furlongs, because as we've talked about before, Linda doesn't often ship. The only reason I can see that she shipped Max Player to Parks to make his debut and to run in Parks is because she knew this was a 2-turn kind of horse, a horse that wants to go far, wants to go 2 turns. I think the 1-turn configuration takes him way out of his game. The weather is a notoriously poor prep race for any Triple Crown significance. I wanted to like this horse, but the cold Linda Rice barn and just the fact that this race changes to a 1-turn 9 furlongs, like, you'll get a price. Like, I wouldn't talk you off of him by any stretch, but he would be my 7th pick maybe, and it's just not a horse I can get to easily.
Oh man, there's a lot of talks in the chat here. Let me scroll up a little bit. There's a lot. Oh, go ahead.
So somebody was asking about the mini layoff on Tis the Law. He's been off since March. End of March. And Barclay Tag is not great off those types of layoffs, quite honestly. 61 to 180 days. He's only a 13% trainer with an 85% ROI. So terrible ROI. Obviously, he's getting chalk home at those types of layoffs. Obviously, Tis the Law is going to be chalk. Is it concerning? Yeah, I guess. I mean, if the horse loses, it's one of those things that if the horse loses, you go back and say, oh, well, it was the layoff or it was this or that. I don't necessarily know that I'm concerned going into it and thinking, Jesus, layoff is going to be a problem for him. He seems like a classy horse. And, he's sort of, he's won off a layoff before, winning the Holy Bull, which is arguably his best race off a fairly substantial layoff. So it doesn't directly scare me, but it's going to be what people are going to go back to if he doesn't win.
Yeah, good question, but I agree. I don't think the layoff bothers me. I think you take the best horse in the field when he's this much the best, I think. And he can fire fresh. He's really done almost nothing wrong in his career. So, yeah. If you want to build a case against Tis the Law, in my opinion, it's his last furlong at Gulfstream in the Florida Derby wasn't that fast. And Chivalry and 8th Indian kind of both came back to suck. I think that's the way to go if you want to talk yourself into not using him or trying to beat him. But I do think that you need to make 2 points, which is A, that Tis the Law is going to not run his best race, and that one of his other horses is going to improve substantially.
So here's a question. Are we expecting weather on Saturday?
We are not. I just looked at the weather forecast. About a high of 80-ish. Nothing in the forecast that would say weather. So I think it's going to be very similar to the last, to today.
Okay.
6421 said it's raining at his house.
Huh.
Dude, he's like 20 miles from Belmont, and whatever he says, the complete opposite happens at Belmont.
You also have to which house is he talking about? Is he talking the Jersey Shore? Or is he talking about his actual house?
His actual house, his house in the Hamptons. He's got like 6 houses. So yeah.
Which house is he at? You gotta find which house, and you gotta find out which state he's in.
I did get a question in that chat about Modernist.
So, and that was part of the reason why I had asked about the rain. Is I think like if we do, I mean, Uncle Mo in the mud. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good setup there. Honor Code has had some success on the mud, and if we look at Tiz the Law's race, his only dud race was on a sloppy surface. So just something to think about. I think if we do get a little bit of weather, pneumatics also out of Uncle Mo out of Tappet. So
Tappet has every right to run well as well in an off track. He doesn't have any experience on it, but the Tommies say he should really relish it. And also, some horse named Max Player apparently is 1 for 1 on an off track. So, they're not expecting weather, but if they were.
So I'm curious, if Tiz the Law, let's say after Tiz the Law, who's the 1 or 2 horses that y'all are most interested in? Either the wind or round up the exacta, whatever. But who are you interested in, assuming Tiz the Law wasn't running?
For me, it's probably Dr. Post, which I feel a little dirty for saying.
I had to Google Dr. Post when I saw he drew in here.
Oh, that's bad, Josh.
I had no idea who the fuck Dr. Post was. What the hell?
His Embridled didn't come back amazingly fast or anything, but that sort of late developing 3-year-old, they paid enough for him. Love the pedigree, and he's won 2 straight. I don't see a real downside there. It's a horse that sort of you don't really know yet, and let's see when he's really asked. So he's the horse that I'm probably most interested in, after Tiz the Law, and should set a similar trip, I would think.
I mean, I would probably. I mean, I think I already said, but I definitely want to see how 4 Left runs here.
Horse. Okay.
I mean, horse that actually might hit the board though. That might actually hit the board.
Not gonna have a Dubai bounce and be absolutely dead last. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think probably Sol Volante. I think is the horse I'm most interested in. I mean, Tappet to Win is interesting. Hasn't raced well at as high of a level as some of these other horses. Sol Volante's got a grade 3 win and the grade 2 place. I mean, Max Player won the Withers, whatever we want to say about that race. Modernist won the week Risen Star and, showed in the Louisiana Derby. Farmington Road was in the Arkansas Derby, I think. Didn't do much there, but I mean, like, Tappet to Win is interesting in kind of new shooter type of way. On Briz looks pretty impressive that last race, but I think Sol Volante is probably the horse that I would want in second. Tappet to Win probably third.
I think you guys kind of covered the ones well, except for that 4 Left pick. I do think it's one of those 3 is your likely upset candidates, and if you love one of those 3, I think that's the way to go. I don't think Dr. Post is fast enough, but I really thought his last race was visually impressive. Did not have a very good trip. Was able to overcome it, and honestly, Irad Ortiz might be the only jockey that gets the horse to win that race. He stays on board. I thought that was a really gutsy effort. Tappet to Win has been a freak as a 3-year-old, and he probably gets a slight pace advantage compared to most of his rivals here. I kind of worry if 2 big efforts in a row and then coming back in 10 days or whatever it is, 16 days might get him to bounce a little bit here. I don't know. But and then Sol Volante also. This was allowance race or optional claiming of Sol Volante was intended to be a prep. Patrick Biancone was on record saying that he missed a work due to weather. So this race was intentionally a prep race, and he won it under a hand ride. He beat some good horses. He beat Chivalry and Eights Indian, who were both very highly regarded. But the horse that ran second was also a horse that broke his maiden in maiden claimers and then won a claiming race and was moving way up in class. So some mixed signals about that. But I do think that Sol Volante is the closer that I want the most in this race, if nothing else. So I think you guys covered the logicals, but it is tough to. It's easy to make a case for any of them, but it's hard to make a case for any of them over Tis the Law, in my opinion, including Pneumatic.
I would probably feel pretty good if I had coverage to both Sol Volante and Tis the Law. I mean, I guess you could make the case that all you need is Tis the Law, but I think if I had both of those, if I was live to both those, I would be, I'd be feeling really good. I don't really think that I need more than those two horses here. I mean, like I said, like I'm just the E7 jumps out of the page, but I mean, cheap speed is cheap speed, Dubai Bounce, and yeah, I mean, like everything possible is going against it. But the drawing Jose just kind of interests me a little bit there. It looks like
Jose didn't have another logical mount in this race. It wasn't like he's getting off something or had any sort of back races on one of these in here. None of these he's ever been on. So it's, you know, it's one thing to say, yeah, the horse drew Jose, but it's also a completely different thing to say Jose didn't have a mount and that was the best option he had.
I mean, yeah, I guess Patrick Biancone could have just, like, I don't know, not flown in Luca Panici. I mean,
Luca gets the horse. I can't lie. Like, I'd love to see Rosario or somebody up on Sol Volante, but Luca's given him a couple of really good rides, so he's earned this shot, if nothing else.
does Manny Franco on Tis the Law, like, scare you at all?
A lot, yeah.
I didn't want to say it. I'm glad Caleb agreed, but man, it scares the crap out of me.
You'll watch the Holy Bull and like watch him literally just like pull the handbrake on this.
Like stops the horse and then goes outside and then goes. It's like, dude, like how did you not? You had the horse, you had momentum. What are you doing?
It's equally impressive that he was able to win despite that, as it is concerning that like those are the kind of things you have to deal with. But yeah, it's concerning. But I do think the outside draw is a big deal for this horse because he can pretty much avoid all the trouble that he needs to.
Yeah, that's my thing. He's drawn outside. I mean, Manny has to sort of invent a bad trip for this horse. So unless Manny does a stupid Manny thing, which happens occasionally, I think he's, much the best here.
Yeah.
Josh, I'll take Jungle Runner head-to-head over 4 left.
Oh my God, Jungle Runner.
I will also take Jungle Runner heads up over 4 left.
Oh man.
It can be our the sequel to the improbable Tacitus bet.
But this is the thing here. Like, how bad is it that 4 left and Jungle Runner are both in the freaking Belmont Stakes? This is absurd. This is terrible. This is just atrocious.
I mean, it is what it is, right? It's 2020. I mean, everything's fucked up this year. I won't. I guess I won't hold it against them very much. I know someone earlier had said that they've obviously the Belmont's been run at a different distance before. Yeah, like in like the early 1900s or something.
It was, yeah.
It's been a while. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You can't blame them for trying to accommodate as many people as they could. And in what was a really weird year. I mean, like we said, I mean, this doesn't really feel like Belmont Stakes Day. Belmont Stakes Day was often the second or third best day of racing the entire year. I mean, I think that nothing beats Breeders' Cup weekend for quality of horses that you get. But then, and I guess we're talking America here because I'm sure you can make a case for Ascot and other international horses, international racing, and I'll feign ignorance on that. But outside of that, and then probably what you got, Travers Day and Belmont Day is probably
Derby Day.
two.
Derby Day.
Derby Day is always had a really good card as well. But with the Met Mile and Belmont, those being two just like premier races on the same day, it sucks that we don't get the Met Mile. I think that would have added a ton of star power to this race or to this day, and I think it's just a shame with the field sizes of what we're getting and what we have, but I know I think we mentioned it earlier. The Jaipur, the field might look a little not as classy as a G1 should look, but at least it's competitive, And at least some of these 5-horse fields, and I know I'm probably just sitting here just picking at straws. At least some of these 5-horse fields at least look somewhat competitive, and like you can make a case for at least 2 out of the 5 as opposed to there being some like 2 to 5 horse. I mean, I think that Gamine race looks like she's gonna win in the walk, but other than that,
I was just gonna say, given what happened last weekend, where you had a 6-horse field where a $31 horse won, just because you have short fields doesn't mean you don't get necessarily prices, especially in these short fields. They're very, very, very competitive. So don't look at this and say, oh, there's a bunch of 5 and 6 horse fields, this isn't playable. Just approach it with a different mindset.
Yeah, I think I see in the middle pick 5, which feels weird to say. I see a heavy favorite in Sweet Melania, a heavy favorite in Gamine, and a heavy favorite in Tisdalaw. I think if you can beat one of them, and then get some medium prices in the spread legs, you stand a chance to make a decent payday. And I think of those 3, the one I want to beat is Gamine. I think if I could also beat Sweet Melania with like a second or third choice, maybe that'd be even better. But yeah, I think that everybody is probably going to play some version of a Sweet Melania selflessly with a whole bunch of horses, with Gamine, with a whole bunch of horses, with Tisdalaw kind of pick 5. So you got to think a little bit creatively to avoid falling into the same ticket structure that everyone's going to probably play.
Yeah, I know Tommy's bringing up in chat right now, race 11. Race 11 is just deep if you're talking about races. And I honestly personally think I think this middle pick 5 has a tendency, or how it looks on paper, is that it chalks out. Maybe it doesn't in real life, but I think it has a tendency to be chalky. I think the early and the late, if you're somebody that is okay with a little deeper ticket structure and okay getting a little more creative, are the ones that have the more potential to pay out. And I really like a couple of horses in the 11th race that I think are going to be pricey and maybe a little ignored on the board and could produce some pretty nice payouts.
Yeah, like we talked earlier, we were joking, but the best 2 races today are like 2 allowance races, which is funny but sad. And this is one of the really good races, I think. I didn't really fully cap it or anything, but I do think that there's like my top 3 picks were probably all in the 5 to 1 to 10 to 1 range without seeing morning lines. So it definitely feels like there's some value here.
Yeah, so you're going to handicap this, and then the Klarovich Arad Chad Brown horse Digital Age is going to win at 6 to 5.
What is the price on that horse? 5 to 2?
3 to 1.
Okay,
but everybody, horse Pillar Mountain is in the 11th.
We all know that Pillar Mountain has really just preparing for this race his whole career, and he was prepping in those grade 1s and grade 3s. That this optional claiming race, this was always the target.
God damn it,
Obviously.
Pillar Mountain. Oh, fucking Pillar Mountain. What was the day the did we do a Kentucky Downs? No, it was a Sword Dancer, right? I think I was on Pillar Mountain, the Sword Dancer, I think. And it was really
Or was it that
rad.
Kentucky Turf Cup race? One of them you were on Pillar Mountain, and
I think that actually the Kentucky Downs Pillar Mountain race was the day the Zulu Alpha shirt was born.
Oh, Zulu Alpha and Arklow, yeah. God, fucking Pillar Mountain.
But by the way, in that 11th race, the horse that I'm really interested in is Talk or Listen. Yes, you're getting Santana up, but look at some of the running lines of who that horse has been running with in Europe. See the likes of like Headman. There's some legitimate horses. Horse has been had consistently improving form. You're getting, yeah, it's Santana, but Dylan Core, first time Lasix. He's very, very good with European shippers. And 10 to 1 in the morning line, and a horse that might get forgotten. I think that horse is super, super interesting.
Yeah, a 10 to 1, I think he's interesting. But a 10 to 1, I don't have lines, but I think I could make a case for probably half the field just as strong because I could make a case for him. So I wouldn't talk you off him, but yeah, I see what you're saying. It's I hate Santana getting up. That kind of bothers me.
Yeah, anybody that's an even competent turf jock over Santana would be.
It's not even just that I don't like him on turf. It's just that he doesn't ride for Delacour anyway. So that just seems so out of nowhere for me.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I'm just not getting Rosario'd here. I'm gonna have to use Pillar Mountain somehow. I'm
Well,
going back to the well.
Horse. If I was going to use a second horse, I was interested in Largent, just off the pace perspective. I think he might make the lead here. He's lightly raced, but he's seems to be getting pretty good at the right time. It's never been worse than second. I hope he's not the favorite. I don't know who the favorite would be here.
I think I saw a 5-2 horse. It was Largent. Yeah, it was Largent.
That's disappointing, but I guess I can see it. He's been the favorite in 4 of his last 5 starts. But yeah, I do think that horse looks tough here.
I think you'll get a fair price. I think you'll get 5-2, or I could see Digital Age or whatever getting.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Digital, the Chad Brown's going to probably go off favored.
But I mean, Largent is the exact type of horse with the exact type of jock that I think you want on the inner turf here. You're going to get there's not a ton of speed signed up here. I mean, I guess Red Right Hand has got a little bit of speed. But Saya's on the front end in a turf race. I mean, how many times have we seen it? If we get a decent price, I think Largent does make a lot of sense here. And of course, as a turn, the first thing I read is someone saying Fadent Largent hard in this race. So
I get 5-2, and this is a tough field. I don't hate that preposition, even though it's a horse that I like. But yeah, like I think I'll probably use him pretty strongly through most of my tickets.
Yeah, agreed. Largent makes a ton of sense here. Largent is probably the speed in this race. Chance of that horse getting loose, it says, is amazingly deadly loose on the lead in a turf race. So completely agreed.
Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. I'm gonna take a look real quick in the chat, make sure I didn't miss anything. No,
I think if I didn't recommend that we take a brief moment to recognize River Boyne's retirement.
I believe Pau Show has already jumped in the chat and announced.
Has he really?
he was going on, but yeah. So what did a fracture injury?
Injury, yeah. That is disappointing. Was he the best horse? No. Was he one of the best horses? Also, probably no. But he tried hard, and he was a fun little horse to watch.
Did he win his last race?
No, he ran like 4th. Raging Bull, I think, won that race.
Oh yeah. That was that real kind of salty race in Santa Anita, right?
I was actually looking forward to betting him off of that effort because I think he had a deceptively strong race when he was pretty wide against a hot pace, but guess I won't have that chance.
Yeah, but I think that's going to do it for us. As you can see, we did all wear the same shirt. We have these available for order with a bunch of different ones. I recommend getting the one that's got Mark's face on it. So I'm going to place an order next week, I think, for one of those, and I will have that for when Saratoga comes around, so I can have Mark's face. I'll bring it to Vegas with me. Actually, so funny story. Pump Up the Yams was actually supposed to send me a shirt with his face on it. So I think I got to reach out to him because I was promised a face shirt. Apparently, every year he goes to every year he goes to New Orleans, and they march in a parade for over Mardi Gras. They march in some parade, and he fucking just tosses out shirts that have his face on it. And he was just like, one year he just went to a bar, and some guy was wearing like 2014 shirt, and he had no clue where the shirt even came from. He's like, I don't know, I got it from some guy throwing him out at a parade. So I thought it was a pretty funny story. But yeah, we got our merch available on thewronglead.com. We got something else coming down the pipeline. I don't know, Mark, if we're able to share that yet or not.
We are, if you want to share it.
Yeah, so I know Mark, it's your wagering platform of choice, which is AM Wager. And they usually have referral links and stuff like that. But they actually went ahead and they created an affiliate link for us. So if you are looking to try a new ADW, I know it's Mark's personal choice. I think, Caleb, you use it a little bit, except for CDI stuff, which I think is how Mark you use it as well.
They're CDI, but they're really good for everything else, and it's my primary platform now, actually.
Yeah, and they're not in Illinois, so I don't use them. So I can't really speak to them too much. But I know Mark really likes the platform. They have a nice Dutching and ABC tools and stuff like that. So if you've been meaning to check it out, go ahead and ping one of us for a link, and we'll be happy to hook you guys up. Same sign up bonus as they offer everybody else, so you don't really lose anything on top. If anything, it just helps us, and it's a way to give us money without actually giving us money. Like I said, eventually I'll get a blog post up just to be transparent about how much money I actually spend on keeping all this stuff up, and what kind of money we've made from other stuff. Just I've seen other people who do YouTube and blogging and stuff do it, so I'll post something up, and that way we can kind of track our progress and see how we're doing. Obviously, we're not looking to make money off this, but it would be nice to not lose money. So check that out. And then we'll have our podcast will be up sometime tomorrow. Chase and I recorded last night, so I'm editing that, and that should get put up sometime tomorrow. I'll have a write-up for Belmont Day. I think I will probably have a couple of races from the tournament that I'm capping for Daily Gallop. So you'll see that up sometime tomorrow. And then I know I'm still trying to confirm, but I think the Childish Gambino has a Santa Anita article for us, because I think there's closing weekend is this weekend, I think, or is that next weekend? Is it this weekend?
They got a mandatory payout on their pick six on Sunday.
Yeah, so I think he's working on an article for us. I'll confirm. I'll reach out to him and just confirm that that's going on. So so we got some stuff in the hopper, and then we're gonna try and keep this train rolling with our kind of podcast on Friday and then Thursday night streams while it makes sense. Obviously, if there's a couple of slow weeks, we might take a week or two off here and there. But you guys got anything else? Anything else you're looking forward to this weekend? Oh, tomorrow, if you haven't signed up yet, we do have a NHC qualifier for the Discord. I posted the link in the tournament channel, so go ahead and check that out. Once again, that's actually nothing. I mean, it's not. No one makes anything off of it. It's just a small private feeder. I think it's $18, and every 9 gets a $165 entry. I think it is. I think the math works out. So it gets you a shot at getting NHC. If you don't have NHC membership, that's okay. You just need it before the actual NHC qualifier. So you can play in the feeders until you get into a qualifier, and then just make sure you pay for that. But that's also in our tournament channel. Tom says, what? In capital letters. Yes, Tom, we have a NHC, and it's tomorrow. So look in the tournament channel.
Yeah, throw the link in the tournaments channel on Discord. And maybe throw the link to Discord. Well, I'm sure everyone has a link to Discord, but just in case.
Yep. But that's going to do it for us. Well, I won't be around much this weekend. I have apparently a wedding that I'm in that I have to go to, so I'll be going to that on Saturday, and I'll be there tomorrow night for like a rehearsal. Apparently, even though there's only like 20 people going, so I don't know what we're rehearsing. But yeah, Tom, I'll send you the link. Yeah, but I think that's gonna do it for us. So for our boy Chase, please send Chase a message if you haven't seen him. I know his back is still hurting a little bit, so he's hopefully on the horizon. We'll be seeing the Wolf back in good spirits and good shape. So shout out to the Wolf. I will drink some whiskey for you, my friend. Cheers, and we'll catch you guys later.
Nice, man.